I said, "Why would we need a DNA test? Now I'm a homeless single mom, and even my dad calls me a 304. The rain pelted down on the windshield as I sat in my rusted Honda Civic, engine off to save what little gas remained. My 3-year-old daughter Lily slept in her car seat, blissfully unaware that this parking lot behind the discount grocery store had become our home for the past 2 weeks. I scrolled through my phone, the screen illuminating my exhausted face as I searched for overnight shelter availability. Nothing. Again, 5 years earlier, I never could have imagined ending up here. Back then, I was Mia Collins, 23-year-old college graduate with a promising marketing career and a boyfriend I thought I'd marry. Now, I was just another statistic, another single mother fighting to keep her head above water in a world that seemed determined to drown her. Jonathan is perfect for you. My roommate Zoe had insisted when she first introduced us at a mutual friend's birthday party. He's smart, stable, and actually wants a relationship. She wasn't wrong. Jonathan Wright had everything I was looking for: intelligence, ambition, kindness, and he made me laugh until my sides hurt. After our third date, I was smitten. After 6 months, we moved in together. By our 1-year anniversary, we were discussing marriage and children. I've never been so sure about anyone, I told my parents over Sunday dinner at their home in the suburbs. My father, Richard Collins, a stern but loving man who'd built his accounting firm from nothing, nodded approvingly. My mother, Ellen, squeezed my hand across the table. "He's a good man," my father said. "Smart investment choices, solid career path. I like him." High praise from my father, whose approval I'd sought my entire life. Jonathan and I were both busy with our careers, but we made time for each other. We had a routine Friday night dates, Sunday morning farmers markets, and weeknight dinners where we'd talk about our days. We had the same values, wanted the same things in life. My friends joked that we were the boring, perfect couple. I took it as a compliment. When I missed my period, we were surprised but not alarmed. We'd talked about children, just not quite so soon. When the pregnancy test showed positive, Jonathan hugged me tightly. "We're going to be parents," he whispered, and I felt his tears against my cheek. We weren't married yet, but that didn't matter. We loved each other. We'd make it work. He proposed 2 weeks later, and though some might have thought it was just because of the pregnancy, I knew better. This was our plan all along, just accelerated. The first trimester passed in a blur of mild morning sickness and excited planning. We converted our home office into a nursery, registered for baby gifts, and started a college fund. Jonathan came to every doctor's appointment, held my hair when I was sick, and massaged my feet when they swelled. This was love, I thought. This was what forever looked like. Until it wasn't. I was 16 weeks pregnant when we went for the anatomy scan. I remember the ultrasound technician's face changing as she moved the wand over my growing belly. The silence in the room grew oppressive. "Is something wrong with the baby?" I asked, gripping Jonathan's hand. No, the baby looks healthy," she said, but her voice held a strange note. "The doctor will be in shortly." Dr. Patel entered the room with a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. After confirming that our baby girl was developing normally, she cleared her throat. "There's something unusual in the blood work we took last time," she said. "Nothing concerning for the baby's health, but I'd like to run a few more tests." Jonathan's hand stiffened in mine. "What kind of tests?" "A DNA test would clarify the situation," Dr. Patel said carefully. There was a moment of confusion before I understood what she was suggesting. Heat rushed to my face. "A paternity test? Why would we need a DNA test?" I asked, laughing nervously. "Jonathan is the father." Dr. Patel's expression remained neutral. "Certain markers in your blood work suggest a possibility that needs to be ruled out. It's routine in such cases." Nothing about this felt routine. I turned to Jonathan, expecting him to share my confusion, maybe even my indignation. Instead, his face had hardened into something I didn't recognize. "Jonathan?" I prompted. "Let's just do the test," he said, not meeting my eyes. The drive home was silent. When we arrived at our apartment, Jonathan finally spoke. "Have you been with anyone else?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "What? No, how can you even ask me that?" "The doctor wouldn't have suggested a DNA test without reason," he said, his voice cold. "There must be something in the results that indicates the baby might not be mine." That's ridiculous. There must be some mistake with the blood work. Then the test will prove that, won't it? I stared at the man I thought I knew, the father of my child, the person I planned to spend my life with. I can't believe you don't trust me. Trust needs to be verified sometimes, Mia. I refused the test. Not because I had anything to hide, but because submitting to it felt like admitting guilt for something I hadn't done. Jonathan slept on the couch that night. The next morning, he was gone before I woke up. He didn't come home that night, or the next. 3 days after the doctor's appointment, Jonathan returned to pack his things. I can't do this, he said, stuffing clothes into a duffel bag. I need time to think. Think about what? I've been faithful to you. This baby is yours. What is there to think about? He paused, hand on the dresser drawer. If you're so confident, why won't you just take the test? Because I shouldn't have to prove myself to you. Because after everything we've shared, you should believe me. People lie, Mia. Even people you think you know. When the door closed behind him, I collapsed onto our bed, my bed now, and sobbed until I had no tears left. I was certain he'd come back once he calmed down. This was just a misunderstanding, a momentary crisis that we'd overcome like any other challenge. But days turned into weeks, and Jonathan's absence became a presence of its own. He responded to my texts with single words or not at all. When I called, it went to voicemail. Eventually, he sent an email cold, formal, saying he'd continue to financially support the baby, but our relationship was over, unless I agreed to a paternity test after the birth. I couldn't understand how the life we'd built had unraveled so quickly. One moment, we were choosing nursery colors. The next, I was alone, pregnant and being treated like a liar. I told myself I could manage. I had my job, my friends, my family. I'd be a single mother, hardly the first, hardly the last. It would be harder than I'd planned, but I would make it work. Then the rumors started. I didn't notice it immediately, the way conversations stopped when I entered the break room at work. The sudden cancellations of plans with friends, the pitying or judgmental looks from acquaintances. It was my closest friend Zoe who finally told me. "Jonathan's been telling people that you cheated," she said. Her voice gentle, but the words still stinging. "He says the baby isn't his, and that's why you refused the test." "That's a lie," I protested, hands protectively covering my growing belly. "I know," Zoe assured me. "I know you wouldn't do that, but people talk and they believe him," I finished. The truth was secondary to the scandal. Jonathan was well-liked, respected. If he said I'd been unfaithful, there must be something to it, right? Never mind that there wasn't. Never mind that I had been devoted to him. The narrative was written, and I was cast as the villain. I thought my parents, at least, would stand by me. I drove to their house on a Sunday afternoon, prepared to tell them everything, to seek refuge in their unconditional love. My mother met me at the door, her face drawn. "Your father doesn't want to see you right now," she said quietly. "What? Why?" She couldn't meet my eyes. Jonathan called him. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. Jonathan knew how much my father's opinion meant to me. He knew exactly what he was doing. "Mom, please, you have to believe me. I never cheated. This baby is Jonathan's." My mother's eyes softened slightly. "I believe you, honey. But your father, he's always liked Jonathan, and he says if you have nothing to hide, you should just take the test." "Not you too," I whispered. "We just want what's best for you," she said, as if that explained everything. I left without seeing my father, a hollow ache spreading through my chest. The one place I had always counted on for support had been poisoned against me. Work became increasingly uncomfortable. My boss called me into his office one day, expressing concerns about my judgment and character. Though he was careful not to mention the rumors specifically, the implication was clear. 2 weeks later, I was let go officially for restructuring reasons, but the timing left little doubt about the real cause. With my savings dwindling and no income, I couldn't keep up with the rent on the apartment. I moved into a smaller place, then a smaller one still. Friends who'd once promised to be there for me became distant, uncomfortable with the scandal that followed me like a shadow. By the time Lily was born, I was living in a studio apartment with secondhand furniture, isolated and fighting depression. But holding my daughter for the first time, seeing her perfect face, her tiny fingers, the undeniable resemblance to both Jonathan and me, I found new strength. For her, I would endure anything. I thought Lily's birth would change things. I sent Jonathan a photo, thinking surely seeing his daughter would break through whatever had hardened in him. His response was a certified letter from his lawyer, demanding a paternity test before he would acknowledge any responsibility. Pride is a luxury for those with options. After months of struggling alone, I finally agreed to the test. The results came back exactly as I knew they would. Jonathan was Lily's father, with 99.99% certainty. I expected an apology, reconciliation, perhaps even a chance to rebuild some version of our life together. Instead, Jonathan merely nodded when his lawyer showed him the results, then set up a direct deposit for the minimum child support required by law. He requested only limited visitation rights, 1 weekend a month, which he frequently canceled at the last minute. He needs more time, his mother told me apologetically after skipping Lily's first birthday. This has all been very difficult for him. As if it hadn't been difficult for me. As if it hadn't been difficult for his daughter. The child support helped, but it wasn't enough. I took whatever jobs I could find, waitressing, retail, gig economy work, but childcare costs ate most of what I earned. My resume, once promising, now had a glaring gap that made marketing positions unlikely. My father remained distant, convinced that where there was smoke, there must be fire. If Jonathan had doubted me, there must have been reason. During our infrequent conversations, he'd make comments about questionable choices and consequences. My mother tried to mediate, but she wouldn't directly contradict him. The final blow came last winter. I'd been balancing 3 part-time jobs, running on caffeine and determination, when Lily got sick. Not just sniffles, high fever, respiratory distress, hospitalization. I missed shifts to with her, maxed out credit cards to cover the medical bills insurance wouldn't pay, and fell behind on rent. When we returned home from the hospital, an eviction notice was taped to the door. I called everyone I knew, begging for temporary housing, loans, anything. Most didn't answer. Some made vague promises they never kept. Jonathan said he was overextended with his new wife and their baby on the way. That night, Lily and I slept in my car for the first time, parked in a Walmart lot with our essential possessions crammed around us. I held my sleeping daughter and wept silently, wondering how my life had spiraled so completely out of control. The present, Mommy, I'm hungry. Lily's voice pulled me from my memories. In the rearview mirror, I could see her rubbing sleep from her eyes, her dark curls so like her father's wild from sleep. Hey, sleepyhead, I've got some crackers and apple slices, I said, reaching into our food bag. We'd been surviving on non-perishables and whatever I could buy with our remaining SNAP benefits. I want real food, she pouted. Like hamburgers. Maybe tomorrow, sweet pea. I had a job interview at a diner in the morning. If I got it, maybe we could afford a small room somewhere. Not an apartment, those required deposits, good credit, rental history, all things I no longer had, but maybe a weekly rate motel room. At least it would be a roof, a real bed, a bathroom. My phone rang my father's ringtone. He rarely called, and my heart skipped with hope. Maybe he'd reconsidered letting us stay with them, just until I could get back on my feet. Dad? I answered. Mia? His voice was tight. Your mother says you've been calling her again. You need to stop. You've made your choices. You lied about that baby's father for months. I never lied. The test proved. After you finally stopped denying what everyone already knew. Do you know what that did to our reputation? I had clients asking if my daughter was the 304 their sons were talking about. The slang term numbers that spelled out a derogatory word hit me like a slap. My own father. I need help, Dad, I whispered, swallowing my pride. Lily and I are sleeping in the car. It's getting cold at night. A long pause. Ben, actions have consequences, Mia. You can't expect others to bail you out every time you make poor decisions. She's your granddaughter, a fact you were happy to deny when it suited you. The line went dead. I sat in stunned silence, Lily munching crackers in the back seat, unaware of how completely her grandfather had rejected us both. My phone buzzed with a text from Zoe, one of the few friends who'd stood by me. Interview tomorrow will go great. Staying with Marcus this weekend, but spare room is yours next week if you need it. Hang in there. A small kindness, but in that moment it felt enormous. 1 week. We just needed to get through one more week in the car. I could do that. Or Lily, I could do anything. Mommy, look! Lily pointed out the window. The rain had stopped and a rainbow arched across the darkening sky. It's pretty. It is, baby. Very pretty. I reached back to squeeze her small hand. Want to hear a secret about rainbows? What? They only come after storms. That means the hard part is over. She nodded seriously, accepting this wisdom with the pure faith of childhood. I wished I could believe it so easily. The truth was, I didn't know if our storm was ending or just beginning. What I did know was that somewhere along the way, I'd lost nearly everything: my relationship, my career, my home, my family's respect, all because I'd stood by my truth when it would have been easier to cave. Why would we need a DNA test? Those words had cost me almost everything. But looking at Lily, I couldn't bring myself to regret them. Despite everything, I'd maintained my dignity. I'd shown my daughter what it meant to stand firm in your truth, even when the world doubts you. Tomorrow might bring another job rejection, another night in the car, another door closed in our faces. But it might also bring a rainbow, a small room to call our own, a fresh start, a chance to rebuild. I started the car. We needed to find a safer place to park for the night. As I pulled out of the lot, Lily began to sing a made-up song about rainbows and puppies, her voice sweet and unconcerned. We'll be okay, I told her. And in that moment, with her singing in the back seat and the rainbow fading in the rearview mirror, I almost believed it. Not because our circumstances had changed, but because I had. I'd been broken down to nothing and survived. Whatever came next, we would face it together, my daughter and I, against the world that had turned its back on us. And someday, when Lily asked about her father, about why we struggled when others had so much, I would tell her the whole story, not to burden her, but to show her that integrity matters more than comfort, that truth matters more than convenience, and that sometimes standing alone is better than compromising who you are. That night, as Lily slept curled against me in the reclined driver's seat, I made a promise to myself and to her. This was not the end of our story. It was merely the difficult middle, the part where the heroine faces her greatest challenges before emerging stronger. Tomorrow would be better. If not tomorrow, then the day after. We would rise again. Because despite everything I'd lost, I still had what mattered most: my daughter, my truth, and the unbreakable spirit that had carried us this far. And no one, not Jonathan, not my father, not the society that had so quickly judged and discarded me, could take those things away.